On a Saturday in London, there was a very big police operation. It was one of the biggest arrest operations in the city for many years. Police arrested 466 people in a single day. The arrests happened in Parliament Square, a famous place for protests in the center of London. The people were there to support a group called Palestine Action. The UK government had recently banned this group. This means it is now illegal to support Palestine Action in public. The government used the Terrorism Act 2000 to do this. Under this law, supporting the group is a serious crime. A person could go to prison for many years. The protesters went to Parliament Square to break this law on purpose. They held up signs that said they supported Palestine Action. They wanted to show that they did not agree with the government. This event started a big conversation in the UK. People across the country began to talk about important questions. They talked about the right to protest peacefully. They talked about the government's use of terrorism laws. They also talked about freedom of speech, which is the right for people to say what they think. Many of the protesters were not afraid of being arrested. They felt it was important to make a point. They believed the law was wrong and wanted to challenge it. The protesters knew police would be there, but they chose to show their signs anyway. This was a direct and peaceful way to show they did not agree with the government's decision. 2. A new group. The group at the center of the arrests was Palestine Action. It started in the year 2020. Two activists, Huda Amori and a friend, began the group. Their main goal was to stop British companies from helping Israel's military. They believed these companies were part of a system that hurt Palestinian people. To do this, they used a method called direct action. This meant they did not just hold signs or march. Instead, they took action themselves to stop the company's work. Their main target was a company called Verbit Systems. Verbit is an Israeli company that makes weapons and military technology, and it has several factories in the UK. Palestine Action's activists went to these factories many times. Their actions were often dramatic. They broke into the buildings and occupied them, meaning they stayed inside to stop people from working. They chained themselves to machines and gates. They often used red paint and sprayed it on the walls of the buildings. The red paint was a symbol for blood. These actions caused a lot of damage to property. The activists broke windows, computers, and factory machines. Over the years, their actions became bigger and more organized. Sometimes they did actions at different factories on the same day. The group even made a book called an underground manual to teach other people how to do direct action. But the group had one very important rule. They were always careful not to hurt any people. All of their actions were against buildings and property, not workers or police. Palestine Action said their work was not a new idea. They compared themselves to famous protest groups from history. For example, they talked about the suffragettes. The suffragettes were women who fought for the right to vote in the UK over 100 years ago. To make the government listen, the suffragettes also damaged property. Palestine Action said they were doing the same thing for a different reason. They said their actions were necessary to try to stop war crimes. 3. The government's plan. The government watched Palestine Action closely. Their actions were a problem. The government wanted to stop them, so they planned to ban the group. A ban would make it a crime to be part of Palestine Action or to support it. But this was a very difficult decision, and people inside the government did not all agree. Important papers showed that this was a new and unusual idea. The UK had never banned a group for only damaging property before. Usually, a group was banned for hurting or killing people. Security experts looked at the situation. A special group called the Joint Terrorism Analysis Center, or JTAC, studied Palestine Action. JTAC said that most of the group's actions were crimes, like damaging buildings. They did not think it was terrorism. The experts at JTAC also said that Palestine Action was very unlikely to hurt people. They only wanted to damage property. Another part of the government, the Foreign Office, was also worried. The Foreign Office works with other countries. They thought the ban was a bad idea for the UK's relationships with other nations. They worried that countries like Italy, Belgium, and the Netherlands would criticize the UK. These countries would probably see Palestine Action as a protest group, not a terrorist group. The Foreign Office also felt that a ban could look like the UK was taking Israel's side in the conflict. This could make problems at home and with other countries. Because of these problems, the government did not act right away. The Home Secretary, who is in charge of security, listened to the advice. They decided to wait. The government needed to find the right moment to announce the ban. They waited for a serious event to happen. This event would help them explain their decision to the public and to the world. The plan was ready, but the time was not yet right. 4. The final problem. Before the government banned Palestine Action, one final event happened. This event was very serious and took place in June 2025. It was the main reason the government decided to act against the group. A small number of activists did something very dangerous. They broke into a Royal Air Force RAF base. The base was RAF Brize Norton in Oxfordshire. This is a very important place for the UK military. It is the RAF's biggest and busiest transport base. The activists were able to get past the security and go inside. Inside the base, the activists found their target. They found two very large and expensive military planes. These were special Voyager aircraft. The RAF uses these planes to move soldiers and equipment all over the world. Important government people, like the Prime Minister, also use these planes for official travel. They are a key part of Britain's military transport. The activists began to damage the two planes. They used tools like crowbars to hit the engines and the body of the aircraft. They also covered the planes in red paint. For the group, the red paint was a symbol of blood. The damage was very bad, and the planes could not fly. The attack was also very expensive. The cost to repair the two planes was about £7 million. Soon after the attack, Palestine Action said they did it. They released a video of the action for everyone to see. In the video, they explained their reasons. They said they wanted to stop the UK from helping Israel's military. They believed the planes could be used to support the war in Gaza. For them, this action was necessary to stop what they saw as bigger crimes. The government was shocked and very angry. The attack was a major security problem. It was very embarrassing because it showed that a top security military base was not safe from a small group. The Prime Minister called the event a serious attack on national security. The Defense Secretary said it was an attack on the country's ability to defend itself. An urgent security check started at all UK military bases. This incident was the final reason for the ban. The government was already worried about Palestine Action, but the attack on an RAF base was different. For the government, this was a direct attack on the nation's military. This final problem led to the decision to make Palestine Action a banned terrorist group. 5. The ban is law. The government made its final decision on July 5, 2025. Home Secretary Yvette Cooper officially announced that Palestine Action would be banned. She spoke to Parliament and explained the government's reasons. She said the group was a risk to the country's safety and a threat to national security. Cooper told the politicians that the UK's defense system was very important, and the government could not allow a group to put it in danger. She said her decision was based on strong advice from security experts. She also mentioned secret information about the group's plans for more attacks on important sites. The ban became a new law using the rules of the Terrorism Act 2000. The government presented the law to Parliament on July 23rd. The politicians had a debate, and then they voted. The result was not close. A large majority of MPs voted to approve the ban. Only 26 MPs voted against it. With this vote, it was official. Palestine Action was now considered a terrorist organization under British law. This new law had serious consequences for anyone who supported the group. The punishments were severe. For example, being a member of Palestine Action could now lead to 10 years in prison. Inviting other people to support the group or organizing a meeting for it was an even bigger crime. The punishment for that was up to 14 years in prison. The law also made smaller acts of support illegal. A person could go to jail for 6 months just for wearing a shirt or holding a sign with the group's name on it. The government made it clear that any support was now against the law. However, many people and critics were very angry about this decision. They argued that it was completely wrong to treat Palestine Action like a terrorist group. The government added Palestine Action to a list with truly violent organizations. This list included groups like ISIS, which is known for murder and terror. Critics said Palestine Action's goal was to damage property, not to hurt people. They believed the government was unfairly using terrorism laws to stop a political protest group that it did not like. The Home Secretary tried to address these worries. She repeated that the ban was only for the organization, not for the wider cause of Palestinian rights. She said people were still free to protest peacefully. But the reality was that a line had been drawn. Supporting this one specific group was now a crime equal to terrorism in the eyes of the law. 6. People say no. Not everyone agreed with the government's decision to ban Palestine Action. After the law was made, many people and important groups said it was a big mistake. They did not stay silent. Instead, they began to protest in different ways because they believed the ban was wrong. International groups that protect human rights criticized the UK government very strongly. The United Nations said the ban was a misuse of power. They explained that the UK was using its serious terrorism laws against a protest group, which was not right under international law. Another famous group, Amnesty International, also condemned the decision. They worried that the new law was a danger to freedom of speech for everyone. They thought it could be used to stop other peaceful protest groups in the future. The fight against the ban also moved into the courts. A well-known human rights lawyer, Gareth Pierce, started a legal case against the government. She has won many important human rights cases before. She argued that Palestine Action was not a real terrorist group because its members did not hurt people, only property. She told the court the ban was illegal because it took away the basic right to protest. A new campaign called Lift the Ban was started by protest organizers. This campaign encouraged ordinary people to protest peacefully against the new law. They knew that showing any support for Palestine Action was now a serious crime with a possible prison sentence. But they believed the law was unjust and had to be challenged. They planned for hundreds of people to break the law together to make a powerful statement. This form of protest is called civil disobedience. In the weeks before a planned big protest, police arrested more than 200 people across the country. Many of these people were old and had never broken a law in their lives. For example, an 81-year-old woman was arrested at a quiet vigil. An 83-year-old retired priest was arrested while she sat in a camping chair holding a small sign. Police took their photos and fingerprints. For many people, these arrests showed that the government's new law was too extreme and unfair. 7. The day of the protest. The big protest happened on August 9th in Parliament Square. This is a famous place for protests in London, right next to the Houses of Parliament. Hundreds of people came to protest against the ban on Palestine Action. The police were also there in large numbers. They arrived early in the morning and were ready for a very large operation. The atmosphere was calm, but everyone knew something important was going to happen. Many journalists were there to watch. The protesters gathered and sat peacefully on the grass. For hours they waited. Police officers stood around them, watching. Then, at exactly 1 o'clock in the afternoon, the loud chimes of Big Ben rang across the square. This was the signal. Hundreds of people acted together as one. They all took out and showed their handmade signs to the police and the cameras. The signs were simple. They all said, "I oppose genocide. I support Palestine action." To show a sign like this was now a serious crime. The new law under the Terrorism Act said that supporting the group was illegal. The protesters knew this. They chose to break the law together peacefully. They wanted to show everyone that they believed the law was wrong and unfair. The police started their work immediately. They moved through the crowd in an organized way, going to each person with a sign. First, they asked the person to put the sign away. The people who refused were arrested. The arrests were very calm and orderly. The protesters did not resist. They quietly went with the officers to the waiting police vans. It was a strange scene, very quiet, but hundreds of people were being arrested. On that one day, police arrested 466 people. It was a huge challenge for the police. They needed many police vans to take everyone away. The police stations in London became full. It was hard to process so many people at once. This was especially true because many protesters were older citizens who had never been in trouble with the police before. It was one of the biggest police operations in London for many years. 8. What happens next? The events in London are a big test for freedom in Britain. It makes everyone ask a difficult question. How do we find the right balance between keeping the country safe and allowing people to protest? There are two very different answers to this question. The government says its most important job is to stop serious crime. It believes Palestine Action's work went far beyond normal protest. They destroyed millions of pounds worth of property at important places like an Air Force base. The government says the ban was necessary to protect national security. From this view, the police were simply enforcing a law that Parliament had approved. However, many people, including human rights groups, disagree. They say this is a dangerous attack on free speech. They worry the government is using strong terrorism laws to stop political dissent. They believe protest is a basic right in a democratic country, even if it causes disruption. They point to the many peaceful older people arrested as proof that the law is wrong. This case is important for all protest groups in the UK. Environmental activists who use direct action now worry they could be banned too. The situation shows there are deep disagreements in British society about this issue. But the story is not over. A legal challenge against the ban has started. Famous human rights lawyers are taking the government to the High Court. The judges will hear the case in November and make a decision. What they decide will be very important for the future of protest and freedom in Britain. Do you think the government made the right decision?
Hey there! Just a second before you go. If you learned something new today, please give this video a like, write your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. It only takes a second, and it really, really helps to create even better English videos for you. Your support means the world. Thank you.